Well, thanks for the introduction. You heard a little bit about me. Before I get started into the presentation, I'd like to ask Deanne and Monica just to give a brief bio of what they do at the WEBstaurant Store. So if you wouldn't mind, Deanne?
Just to briefly go over again, I was Econ grad in 2010. I graduated with a business degree and finance and marketing administration. I joined the web in 2011 in the logistics department. Now I oversee a team within that and manage our day-to-day tasks, essentially getting orders to our customers as quickly and efficiently as possible, keeping our costs in mind. That's usually the main overview of the logistics department.
I graduated in 2010 with Deanne. I majored in international business with a minor in Spanish, and my concentration was marketing. I joined Clark in the purchasing department in 2012, and then I transitioned over to the WEBstaurant Store and customer solutions. So now I'm a customer solutions specialist, and I also am a category expert on a few categories that we sell on our website, as well as taking care of our Spanish customers.
Okay, thanks. And both of these ladies are very, very valuable to the company and really great employees, and we're always looking for more E-Town grads like that. So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about the background of Clark Associates. The WEBstaurant Store is the e-commerce division of Clark Associates, but Clark actually goes back even further. So we'll talk about the history. We'll talk briefly about some of the other Clark divisions so you kind of have an understanding of the entire company. But we'll spend most of the time talking about the WEBstaurant Store, how we got started, where we're at today, our strategy, how we go to market, and then in the last part of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about where we see things going in the future, specifically how we are gearing our approach to the food service industry around catering to millennial customers. So, to get started, a little bit on Clark. Clark was actually founded back in 1971 by two brothers, Lloyd and Glenn Clark. Sadly, Lloyd just passed away within the last month. Glenn's still living, but retired. And they started on Lloyd's 40th birthday as an electrical and mechanical contracting company. They started in that barn behind the El Camino. Sadly, we don't have the El Camino anymore. But what started as a 12-person operation has grown today to over 900 employees in many states throughout the country. The WEBstaurant Store has 500 of those employees. We do a variety of things. I kind of broke it down sort of based on industry segment. So I'm going to touch on each of these briefly. And by the way, if at any point in time you have questions, feel free to stop and interrupt, and certainly there will be an opportunity for questions at the end as well. We have in the Clark companies the equipment division, which will do anything from design build to installation to sales for projects ranging from, okay, a church needs to put in a new kitchen, maybe it's $100,000, all the way up to something like Geisinger Medical Center that's going to be like a $2 or $3 million project. So they really cover a pretty wide variety, and they do projects mostly on the East Coast, but they've gone as far west as Hawaii. We have the CSP group, which stands for Clark Service and Parts. They're based in Smoketown, and they do warranty and repair work on the equipment that we sell. So if we have a refrigerator that needs service, they'll go out and do that here in the local market. Clark Convenience Store Products is another division of, or part of the CSP division, and they cater specifically to chains like Turkey Hill and Rutter's. Some other companies, we have Clark Fire, Noble Chemical. Clark Fire does hood work in commercial kitchens. They do fire extinguisher inspections. Noble Chemical does installation of warewashing machines, servicing those machines, and then also hooking up the chemicals that go to them. Distribution companies, we have three ways that we go to market. One is as a traditional distributor, which is kind of how we got started. Salespeople out on the street. We have our own delivery trucks. We offer customer lots of service, offer terms, free delivery, and that is kind of what led to the emergence of the restaurant store and the WEBstaurant Store. We found that there was a customer base that maybe didn't want to pay the extra amount for the higher level of service that they might get through the Clark Pro division, which is that traditional distributor. They would want to go to a store and pick up products instead. They don't need to pay for the delivery. They don't need to pay to have a salesperson come out and visit them. And so the restaurant store emerged back in the early 90s as a cash and carry type operation, very similar to Home Depot or Lowe's, but geared specifically to the food service industry. We have 7 locations, 1 here in Lancaster, and we are looking to expand by adding a location over the next several years. The WEBstaurant Store. The WEBstaurant Store launched back in 2004, which is when I started with the company. It had been in development prior to me getting there, but it kind of worked out timing-wise that the summer that I started, the owner of Clark Associates, Fred Clark, approached me and said, would you want to take on this project? And I said yes. I was doing other things at the time, but this was sort of like a part-time project. Started with 3 people, me, another person answering the phones. We had a guy out in one of our restaurant store locations pushing a cart around, collecting orders. Back then, a great day for us was shipping 10 orders a day. The past 10 years have been a period of rapid growth for us. Today, we're shipping out about 5,500 orders a day. And like I mentioned earlier, that those 3 employees, counting myself, have grown to over 500 between Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Nevada, and we're getting ready to open up a few more locations, which I'll talk a little bit more about on an upcoming slide. So I want to talk about what the WEBstaurant Store does. The WEBstaurant Store sells products that are geared towards the food service industry, just like the restaurant store and just like Clark Pro. And if I can get online, I'll show you some examples of the types of products that we sell. Basically, it's anything that you would see in a commercial food service operation minus perishable food product. So we sell everything from cooking equipment to refrigeration, ice machines, into consumable products, like I mentioned, not perishable, but canned items, spices, pasta. We have janitorial products, cleaning chemicals, bathroom supply type items. In the tabletop area, if you go out to a restaurant, anything that you see on the table is probably something that we sell: china, flatware, glassware, etc. We also specialize in actually sourcing our own private label products as well. So we're not just selling products from domestic manufacturers. We are actually partnering with manufacturers all over the world to produce products under our own label. One example of that would be in equipment. Under refrigeration, this is our biggest line by far in terms of private label, is our Avanco line. Avanco is our own brand. It's only available through the WEBstaurant Store, through the restaurant store, through the other Clark divisions. And it's done quite well. In fact, it's selling so well, we have trouble keeping enough product in our warehouses to meet demand. But we also private label in gloves, disposable products like hot cups, cold cups, things like popcorn buckets. I think I mentioned spices. So there's really a wide variety of items where we've done this. And we've done it to help differentiate ourselves from a lot of our competitors who are just selling name brand products that are available everywhere. We sell those products too, but this is a major part of our success. So I'll go back to this slide. So that's what we do. But really where we get into what makes our company different is in how we do it. And the best way to explain this is by talking about our culture. And I'm going to expand on this in the next slide, but just to touch on it now, there's 3 things that are really, really important to our company culture. And that is having an entrepreneurial spirit, having attitude of great employees only, and of course doing the right thing. Like I said, I'll elaborate on that in a minute. The last thing is, why do we exist? What's our purpose? The reason that we're in business is to empower people to run their businesses more profitably and efficiently. Obviously, when I say business, I'm referring to restaurants, but we also touch on a lot of other food service type customers. Now, I did want to do some audience participation here, and there may be an incentive for anyone that provides answers for some of the questions that I ask. But can any of you think of a food service customer other than a restaurant that we might do business with?
Supermarket?
Absolutely. Monica? All the way in the back?
Hotels?
Hotels, yeah. In fact, we private label our own brand of hotel amenities like soaps and shampoos, along with things like towels and washcloths too. So that's a big market for us.
Catering company?
Yeah, catering's a huge company. Again, we do a lot of private label and cater. We have our own line of Schaefer's and other types of catering equipment too.
College food services?
Yes, E-Town's one of our customers. They actually work with the traditional division of Clark, not the WEBstaurant Store so much, but that's a big part of our business too. And the list goes on. I mean, we deal with prisons, bars, bakeries, anywhere where you might see a commercial food service kitchen. That's a market that we are probably in. Now, the next part of the presentation, I'm going to elaborate a little bit on what I mean by culture. But before I do that, I thought that one of the best ways to give you guys a feel for what it's like to work at Clark and what our corporate culture is like is to show a video that we put together earlier this year that showcases our office, it showcases our people, and I think, like I said, I think it gives you a pretty good feel for what the WEBstaurant Store is like. Oh, there it is, okay. So Seth was one of our interns. He's in the audience here today. Would you say that that accurately captures the WEBstaurant Store culture the way you experienced it this summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. I mean, people brought their dogs in all the time, so it made it pretty exciting. Pretty laid back, so pretty much it.
Okay, that's the right answer. So that gives you a feel for kind of what it's like. That was filmed at our office, which is located in Lidditz, which is about 20 minutes or so away from here. It was also filmed at our warehouse, which is in Leola. But I want to kind of elaborate on some of those points that I discussed on the previous slide. The first thing that I think is important to our culture is having an entrepreneurial spirit. I don't know how many gift cards we have left, but I have a question for you guys. When you hear the word entrepreneurship, maybe some of you have taken classes in that if that's offered here. What are some of the words that come to mind?
Innovative.
Innovative, okay.
Risk-loving.
Risk-loving, okay.
Creative thinkers.
Creative thinkers. Leaders. Yeah.
Opportunity seeking.
Opportunity seeking, absolutely. I think that actually that really describes it very well. Those are all words that I think describe our culture. It's one of the reasons that we've grown as rapidly as we have. Other ways that I would say that we embrace the entrepreneurial spirit is making sure that we keep our company very, very agile and nimble. We work very hard, especially as we've gotten a lot bigger, to avoid creating bureaucracy. We do not want layers and layers of management. We have a very flat structure, and that's intentional. We want people to be able to work their way up in our company through initiative and not seniority. And Deanne and Monica are two great examples of that. Deanne is overseeing a team of logistics folks. She has also worked very closely with our development team to make sure that as the company's growing, we're keeping up not only with having great people, but making sure we have great processes too. We do a lot of things ourselves, which I think is another thing that kind of speaks to our entrepreneurial culture. She worked to develop the routing system that controls inventory distribution between Lancaster and then when we added Kentucky and Nevada into the mix. And that's a big project that she's done a very good job with. Monica also has moved up by demonstrating initiative. She started in purchasing, moved to customer solutions, and now, just yesterday as a matter of fact, is doing product training and educating the rest of the office on some of the items that we sell. She actually trained over probably 75 people yesterday on one of our key product lines. So both of them have moved up very quickly, not because they have years and years of service, but because they have the initiative and the desire to rise up. And that's, I think, something that is really important to our culture. Having a passion for excellence, great employees only. How many of you do group projects? I guess it's everybody probably, right? How many of you have worked in a group where there's been one or more people that don't do anything or don't care or don't pull their weight? Okay, so here's the easiest way that I explain great employees only. We don't permit those types of people into our company. We only want that person who's running the group project, who takes on the responsibility, who demonstrates leadership, who's working really hard, and that's it. I mean, we are very, very serious about this. This is not something that's just something we pay lip service to. We really believe in making sure that we have people working for us who, like Deanne and Monica, demonstrate a real passion for excellence in what they do. That is, our people are the reason that we've been able to grow as quickly as we have. We would never have been able to do that if we didn't have outstanding people to support that growth. And then lastly, doing the right thing, and that's pretty self-explanatory. One of the things that's great about our company is we really give back. The Clark Foundation donates hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to mostly local charities. or charities in some of the other states that we do business in, which makes me very proud to be part of the company. It's really something that we try to embed in our culture. And in addition to donating money, we also have monthly volunteer projects that are organized by someone in our office, where we might have a group of maybe 5 to up to 25 people that go out and do work at local food banks. We've done park cleanups. We've helped collect the rubber duckies after the Schreiber rubber ducky race in the summertime. So they do a lot of fun activities too. Okay, next part of the presentation kind of talks about where the WEBstaurant Store is going over the next 5 years. I guess another question for the audience is the Millennial Generation. Can anyone define what a millennial is?
Depends on who you ask.
Okay.
People say it's people born from 1994 and then from there.
Okay. Yeah, the dates kind of vary. We generally define it as anyone born between the years 1980 and 2000, just so I'm included. It doesn't make me feel as old. But the Millennial Generation is moving into decision-making roles across the country, especially when it comes to our customers. So that restaurant or that college or that supermarket or that caterer who is going to be deciding, which refrigerator they purchase or where they buy their china from is going to be someone from the Millennial Generation more and more and more going forward. So can anyone think of an adjective, a word to describe the Millennial Generation, how it might be different from other generations, or what's important to a millennial?
Technology.
Technology, absolutely. Impatient, absolutely.
Becoming more brave.
Yeah, that's a good one. Very important. Those are very, very good. Actually, they line up very well with my next slide. So we're thinking about how the millennials are going to change the industry. What's going to be important to them? How do we need to change to respond to those trends? So I'm going to talk about 3 trends, and then I'm going to talk about what we're doing to react to them. The first is instant gratification. So someone said impatient, and I totally agree with that. The example that I think about is when I was in high school, and I'm not that old, I'm 32, so I was in high school in the late 90s. You actually had to go to a music store to buy music. Has anyone been to a CD store in the last year? Wow, okay. I'm surprised, some old school people here. Yeah. So fewer and fewer people do this. It used to be, a hour-long affair to go out to the mall, buy music, get in your car, drive home. By the time I was in college, freshman year, Napster was big on the scene. I'm not saying I ever did this, but people would pirate music. And I remember being in the dorms, and people, if they couldn't download a music within, 5 or 6 minutes, they were becoming irate. And so what used to be an hour-long adventure to go purchase music was now happening in 5 to maybe 10 minutes, depending on how many people were using bandwidth in the dorms at the time. And they were doing it for free. And they were becoming upset if it was downloading too slow. Now, most of us buy music legally. I do. But it's a matter of seconds. If we don't have it, if a song doesn't download in 30 seconds for me, I assume that something's wrong. So what that kind of shows me is that the push for instant gratification, the impatience that's sort of embedded into our experience growing up, is something that we need to respond to and something that is going to be important to our customers. The next one is choices. As a consumer, I don't think there's many areas where choices are becoming fewer and fewer. The example that I have here is television channels. My dad didn't even have a TV. My mom did, but she had 3 channels. NBC, ABC, and CBS. I grew up with hundreds. Most of you probably did too. You know, I just was at Five Guys the other day, and I remember, you know, most restaurants have the 6-head drink dispensers. Five Guys has one where you can now like get 127 different flavors by, you know, using their touchscreen. That, I think, is another example of just making sure the consumer has more and more to choose from. And so I'll talk about how we're responding to that in a minute. And then lastly, someone mentioned technology, and I totally agree. The example I have on the slide here is someone waiting in line, and the timing couldn't be perfect because just on my way to work this morning at 7 a.m., I drove by the AT&T store next to Dutch Wonderland, and there must have been 40 people waiting in line to try and get their hands on an iPhone today. So those people might be on the extreme end of things, but I still think that technology is something that's very, very important to millennials, something that millennials have grown up with, and certainly as an e-commerce company, we need to be seen as being on the cutting edge. So first up is instant gratification. Quite simply, we interpret this as getting stuff to people faster and faster. What you see here is a map of our transit times as they looked in, from the time we launched in 2004 up to 2011. What you see in pink is 1 day, blue is 2 day, orange 3, green 4, and then the other pinkish color on the West Coast is 5. We are actually very fortunate in that being in Lancaster, we're able to hit a lot of the population in 1 or 2 days, which is great. The problem is the middle of the country and the West Coast. California has been our biggest state for sales almost since the beginning, just based on the population size of that state. And so it's been a 5-day transit time for a long time. Because so much of the population is east of the Mississippi, we needed a second backup distribution center to help supplement the volume that Lancaster was required to ship. So we opened Madisonville, Kentucky back in the end of 2011, beginning of 2012. That is 150,000 square feet. Just to give you some background, our Lancaster warehouse was 90,000 square feet, so we went a little bit bigger. But we quickly maxed out both the space and the shipping capacity of that building. So this winter, we opened up a 180,000 square foot distribution center in a town called Dayton, Nevada. Dayton is about an hour or so south of Reno. So Dayton gives us a great position to be able to get to the West Coast in 1 day, or to California in 1 day, and the rest of the West Coast in 1 or 2 days. You can see on the right-hand side of this chart a graph, and that shows you what percentage of the population is in each of those zones. So we have about 45% of the population in 1 day, about 52% of the population in 2 days. So we're hitting, you know, roughly 95, 96% of the population in 1 or 2 days, which is good, but again, we are quickly maxing out the space available in all of our warehouses, even with the addition of the 180,000 square feet in Nevada. And there's other markets that we want to get to faster, like Florida, for example. So we have a couple of big projects coming online in the next year, actually. We have a distribution center in Maryland that we're very close to actually moving in. That is 500,000 square feet. So it will, by a landslide, be our largest facility yet. It will help keep up with East Coast volume. We're still going to run Lancaster, but it just doesn't have the capacity or the space to keep up with the sheer amount of orders that we have coming in. So Maryland will greatly help with that. Then you can see we're going to add something in the south. We have a building under agreement in a town called Albany, Georgia, which again is going to be a massive building for us, another almost 500,000 square foot facility that will hopefully be up and running by late next year. So in the next year, we're adding over double the square footage of what we have currently, which I think speaks to our growth and also speaks to our commitment to getting to some of these key markets faster. After Georgia, we're looking at going back to the West Coast and expanding to make sure that we can keep up out in Nevada. And we're looking at adding a distribution center in Texas. Texas would be the next huge market for us that we want to get to a one-day shipping point. Beyond Texas, kind of looking out to like the 10-year plan, we're looking at the Carolinas, we're looking at the Pacific Northwest, we're looking at the upper Midwest, we're looking at Colorado area, and we see ourselves opening another distribution center, probably every 1 to 2 years. Yes?
Is there a reason why the gray area and Montana is like the east?
Yes, it's because we actually don't care too much about that area because nobody lives there.
Oh.
No, it's actually for FedEx, and UPS, they just can't get to those more remote areas faster than 3 days. It looks like a big chunk of space when you look at it on the chart. It makes the map look ugly, but it's sort of a priority issue for us. There's so many more people in the areas where we're putting our distribution centers that, sorry Montana, you're gonna have to wait 3 days. But good question. Another way that we interpret instant gratification is not only getting stuff to people quickly, but getting information, getting answers to people quickly. So we started, like I said, it was me and another guy on the phones, chats, and email. We now have about 75 people in customer solutions, plus another 35 or so people in logistics. And we're expanding our hours. We started like basically 8 to 5. We're now 8 to midnight, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 8 on Friday, limited hours on the weekend. But over the next year or 2 years, we see that moving to a 24/7 operation because we have customers who are logging onto our site all hours of the day. We want to be there for a customer, when that bar closes at 2 a.m. and the guy realizes that he needs to, place a new order for glassware and has a question, we want to be there to answer that question so he can, confidently place the order with us. We also deliver an even higher level of instant gratification to our Platinum accounts. Platinum is an unadvertised service that we advertise or that we offer to customers who are large or have the potential to be large. So some examples of Platinum customers that we have now. Anyone ever heard of Blue Apron? You might see ads for them on Facebook. They've been putting more out there lately. It's really a very interesting service. They take ingredients, put them in a box, ship them out to you, and then you can give you instructions for like 3 meals. So my wife and I just tried it this week, and it's actually pretty neat. But they're one of our Platinum accounts, and they'll do several $100,000 a year with us. We have some regional chains that'll kind of do that level as well. Then we have smaller caterers and restaurants that might do $20,000 or $30,000 a year. But for an e-commerce company, that's a large account, and we want to make sure that we are offering to them a dedicated account rep. So when they call in, they are speaking to someone who knows their business and knows them and can get answers back to them that much faster. We also give them priority shipping in the warehouse. So no matter how busy we are, their orders are always going out same day, along with a couple of other services. So instant gratification is getting stuff to people fast and getting information to people quickly. Next up is choices, and one of the most basic ways that we interpret this is making sure that we are a one-stop shop for our customers, making sure that when a customer needs something in the food service industry, no matter what it is, we want them to start their search with us. We don't even want them to go to Google first. We want them to come to the WEBstaurant Store because they know they're going to find the item that they're looking for. But not only that, they're going to be able to watch a video, they're going to be able to review a buying guide, they're going to see the best content, and they're also going to see plenty of customer reviews so that they can get all the information that they need from our site. So anyway, we want to make sure we have as many options for them as possible. So we launched back in 2004 with 7,500 products. We now have over 110,000 items on our site, and we're adding literally thousands every month. So another way that we think about choices sort of overlaps with technology, and that is that we want to make sure we're giving customers not only options in terms of what they purchase from us, but in terms of how and when they connect to us. So We currently offer a mobile site, and we're getting ready to roll out a mobile app that will allow us to do a few things that we can't do currently just with the site. That is scanning to order. So if a customer is in their supply room, rather than type in the items that they need, they'll be able to just scan the barcodes of the products that they want to reorder. In the future, we want to offer voice to order. So, rather than type, rather than to scan, they'll be able to say, reorder a case of my 8-ounce foam cups, reorder a case of my large vinyl gloves, and it will build an order based off of what it understands the customer to be saying. One of the barriers that we have in connecting with our customers is face-to-face contact. Being an e-commerce company, that obviously is very hard. So we're working right now to do a video chat program similar to what you might have seen when Amazon was promoting their May Day feature. I guess it was mostly over the holidays, where a customer can initiate a video chat, see a rep. We'll actually be able to see them too. And hopefully that helps us kind of strengthen the connection that we have with our customers. We're going to roll this out to our platinum accounts first and then kind of take it from there. We're working to also streamline purchasing, make it easier for our customers to place orders on our website. So software is becoming more available to a lot of our customers to kind of manage their purchasing process. And we want to make sure that if a customer has a purchasing program, they don't have to put an order into their purchasing program and then reproduce the order again on our website. We want them to be able to put it into their system once and then have our website speak directly to that program. So we actually were just approached by the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, not the Central Intelligence Agency, to work with them on connecting to their system. And we just made that live and have started to receive orders automatically from them, which is great. And then lastly, we're working to do more and more customization. So like we had talked about earlier, there's a lot of customers, a lot of different types of accounts that we deal with. We deal with everyone from a church to a nightclub. And when a church comes to our homepage, they don't necessarily need to see shot glasses and beer bombs and that type of thing. Churches would have a much different type of item that they're looking for, and many of our customers do. So we want to make sure that when a customer registers with us, they currently give us their business type, that when they come back, we customize the site based on that business type, along with customizing it based on the types of items that they've looked at and the types of items that they've ordered. So that's in the works as well. And then lastly, I've talked a lot about our growth. I've talked about how many employees we started with, how many we have today. We started in Lancaster. We now have 3 locations. By next year at this time, we'll have 5 locations throughout the country. I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like in terms of dollars. And I can tell you, when I started the company back in 2004, we were about a $30 million company, and I'm talking about Clark as a whole. This is looking at the last 5 years. In 2009, we did about 80 million, and there's a publication that ranks distributors in our industry. So we were number 12 in terms of size back in 2009. You can see we've had quite a bit of growth, and we are by far the fastest growing company in the history of our industry, as a matter of fact. We are now, as of last year, at about 327, and we predict that in 2014, we're going to come in over $100 million higher than that number. So that, again, is going to put us as the fastest growing company in our industry, for probably the 4th or 5th consecutive year. This growth isn't possible without having great people, like I mentioned. We have a tremendous amount of success with the E-Town grads that have come to work for us. 2 examples are right here, but I also put some pictures of some of the other people that we have working for us who have graduated recently, who maybe some of you might know. And then there's the rest. So that actually is the last slide that I have. So I don't know if we do questions at this point or, okay.
Questions? Anybody have any questions?
We have one more gift card.
Okay. We'll start here.
first company, which obviously requires a lot of technological skill and
Right.
computer savvy. This is
Yes.
sort of a specific question.
Okay.
What types of skills do you find people are lacking nowadays for a company like yours? Like, what would you like to see more of?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. So we have a lot of different positions. Some of the hardest positions to fill are those developer type roles where you need to have coding knowledge. Here in Lancaster, there aren't a lot of people that know how to do that. So that's one of the hardest things. Really, I would say that what we try and train our people to do in terms of skills is think critically, to really embrace an entrepreneurial mindset. We find a lot of people starting, especially out of school, who maybe expect to kind of come in and be given a very specific set of instructions for what they need to do and what they're going to need to expect. And having that ability to kind of think for yourself, come up with your own solutions, is something that all the people that we hire are capable of doing, but they don't necessarily come in with that mentality. Seth was part of an intern training that we did that was structured around that very idea. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I want looking more forward into the future, like maybe 10-year, 20-year plan.
Okay.
I see a lot of rapid growth. Like, do you foresee any kind of ceiling at all with that, or is it like the mentality is we can be the best in our industry, we're going to try to achieve that?
Yeah, that's the mentality. The biggest company in our industry right now, in terms of revenue, does about $1 billion, and we don't see any reason why we can't get to that level and beyond. Our industry is not growing that fast, especially over the past 5 or 6 years. Restaurants were hit really hard. What we are finding is that more and more people are coming to the internet as a way to source products, and as more millennials grow into those purchasing roles, we just see that getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And where we are getting most of our growth from is by taking market share from traditional distributors who have not adapted and who have not put together a really good e-commerce site to cater to that audience. So I don't see a ceiling in the foreseeable future. The only ceiling that we will have will be any that we create for ourselves by not being able to keep up as quickly as we need to with people and space.
When dealing with customers, like you guys said that you're dealing with customers over technology, like being able to video chat with them and stuff.
Yes.
What does your company deal with when you have a dissatisfied customer, or when they're not satisfied? What's the plan of action?
Well, it depends. Monica could probably answer that question for you really well, being in customer solutions, but it depends on the situation. So, we want to do the right thing, which is part of our culture. If we made a mistake, if we messed up, we want to make sure we take care of the customer. Having said that, if a customer comes to us with an issue that is their own, for example, we deal with, we market ourselves to businesses, okay? But we will accept orders from residential customers. When residential customers check out with us, they get a warning that says, hey, most of our products are geared towards a commercial application. That means equipment's going to run louder. It may not, be as perfect and beautiful as what you might find in a residential type version. And so be aware of that. If a customer receives a product and they tell us that, they don't like the color of it, we were just talking about an issue with a residential account where we warned them that a refrigeration unit that they were purchasing for their basement is probably not the best item for their basement. It's a commercial version, it's not designed, and so we try and help those customers out, but we also say, hey, we're sorry if you're upset, but our policy is listed on the site, and we're okay with losing customers if it's not our target market, I guess is my answer. Yes?
What's your plan of action for, like, let's say around New Year's when your volume of orders may be higher than usual?
Well, what's interesting about our business is Christmas and New Year's are actually very slow for us because that's when our customers are very, very busy. So they put a lot of their orders in the fall to get ready for the busy season. We also have a really busy season in the springtime when our customers are getting ready for the summer season. So actually, February, March, April, and May are the busiest times of year for us in terms of month-over-month growth. What we try and do is hire now to be ready for that, and we, have a great staff that, in the warehouse, we offer plenty of overtime. We bring in temps as needed to be ready for that type of spike in volume, but it's mainly just about preparing and making sure that we are ahead of the curve with hiring.
What's your competitive plan? Like, how do you stay competitive? Like, it seems like your customer service and your quality and everything like that is pretty high.
Yeah.
So does that raise your price, or how do you stay competitive?
By sourcing products well. Private label is one of the things I talked about, where we have our own line of refrigeration along with other key product categories. And by sourcing products like that, buying full container loads, buying full truckloads, warehousing them in our distribution centers, we're able to buy at a better price and then sell at a better price to our customers. A lot of our competition buys in smaller quantities and doesn't have the space or the capital resources to invest in inventory the way that we do. And so that really helps keep our pricing very, very competitive.
Do you ever see your company expanding internationally?
We do a little bit of international business now. We ship to Canada, for example. We also ship quite a bit of product down to the Caribbean. And we, believe it or not, when we use DHL, we do a little bit overseas. I mean, we ship to Europe, we ship to Australia, we ship to Singapore. So it's not huge for us because the cost for a customer to pay for that international shipping is prohibitive when you look at the cost of our product. So they might spend $200 on a blender, and then the shipping costs are like $100 to get it all the way across the world. So it's not big for us now, but it's not something that we would rule out further into the future. Our priority is building out that network of distribution centers first in the US because we see so much potential to grow here. So that's what we're going to focus on now, but it could be more a part of our future beyond that. Great questions.